And we'll be talking about it from a different side of the story. So we'll see what that means. So usually when we talk about diabetes, the first thing that we think about is sugar. Either the person ate too much sugar and they develop diabetes, or they have diabetes so they can't eat sugar, because if they do, they will have all of these complications, and that's not good, right? But fear not, all they have to do is eat fruits and vegetables, go see their doctor, do exactly what the doctor says, and everything's gonna be okay. But unfortunately, with diabetes, nothing is that simple. For now, we have about 42 factors that we know do affect blood sugar or blood glucose. And as you can see, they can span many different topics. So they can be about food, what did we eat, when did we eat it, what did we eat it with, but also things that we have zero control on, like biological factors. And some of these factors also can impact the blood sugar, either by increasing it or decreasing it. So while high blood sugar is quite important in diabetes management because we do want to avoid these long-term complications of high blood sugar, it is not the only part, and it's only one side of the scale. The other side, and the focus of my research, is hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar. And that is when the blood sugar falls too low for the brain to properly function. And hypoglycemia is an important complication of the treatment because it happens now. So when a hypoglycemia or low blood sugar event happens, the person feels it now and feels those signs now. So these signs can vary from mildly inconvenient signs like sweating or feeling a little bit anxious, but they can also go forward to even more moderate signs or symptoms that can actually have more severe impact in the sense that the person now will be confused or will have difficulty speaking, or even some vision problems as well. So in that case, this is what we call a clinically significant hypoglycemia. And in this case, the brain is really ringing the bell alarm. We need some sugar, otherwise things will get worse. And when things get worse, the person is no longer able to treat, and that's a severe episode. They're no longer able to treat by themselves, so they will rely on a third party to help them with that. And usually it's either because they're unconscious, having seizures, or in a coma. And we actually did a survey and asked people who have type 1 diabetes in Quebec about their experience with severe hypoglycemia. And we actually found that they do need more reliance on other people. In this case, a third of them reported needing help from a first respondent or from paramedics, and another third reported that they needed to be transported by ambulance. So the issue with hypoglycemia is that the burden of severity is not the only burden, because hypoglycemia is also a daily complication or a daily burden as well. We also asked the same people about serious hypoglycemia or the moderate hypoglycemia. And we can see here that even in for serious hypoglycemia, so the non-severe one, people are still reporting that it had impact on their life. So whether it's a severe episode or a serious episode, hypoglycemia can still impact people's life and also impact it on a daily basis. So this combination of severity and that now factor, that when hypoglycemia happens, we feel it now, can also lead people to develop a fear of hypoglycemia. So people with diabetes would develop this anxiety around hypoglycemia and would try anything to avoid having those kind of symptoms and those kind of signs, and that can impact their daily life activities. So some of them would choose to not practice physical activity because it will reduce their blood sugar. Some of them will choose to restrict their social activities because of that as well. And in turn, that could also impact on their productivity. The other side of managing diabetes as well is that the person needs to do two main things throughout the day, every day, because it's a chronic condition, so they have to do that for the rest of their lives. And they have to measure their blood sugars. And here we see the conventional method of measuring the blood sugar. So you have to prick your finger, extract a droplet of blood, and that usually only tells us what's happening now. So the person has no idea what's happening the rest of the 90% of the time that they're not breaking their finger, because we can't do that every 5 seconds. The other aspect of diabetes management is insulin. So people have to take insulin or inject insulin. And the conventional method that we see on this slide is also through a syringe. And usually people would do it 3 to 4 to 5 times, multiple times a day, every day. And with these type of way of taking insulin, this can create some type of social anxiety for people, because if, for example, you're eating out and you need to take your insulin for the meal, if you take out a syringe and inject yourself with this mysterious liquid, you're going to get some looks. So this burden of diabetes management itself gets added to the low blood sugar burden as well, and they can create this fear and this diabetes distress that gets created around this condition. So now we actually do have diabetes technologies that can help with this. So instead of pricking your finger and only knowing what's happening at that specific moment, now we have technologies that the person can wear throughout the day, and it tells them continuously what the blood sugar is and how it's changing, if it's going up, if it's going down, and they can make changes accordingly. We also have what we call insulin pumps that can also give little amounts of insulin throughout the day. So it adds a little bit of more flexibility, as well as discreet, because you can just do it from your phone, sometimes from the little device that you have with the pump, without needing to inject yourself in public. So I was curious to see how do these technologies can reduce the burden of low blood sugar in people who live with type 1 diabetes. So we started by doing a meta-analysis, and basically we looked at all the studies that exist about this topic, and we summarized them. And in one sentence, what we found is that these diabetes technologies do reduce the fear of hypoglycemia. They do reduce that psychological and that mental burden that comes with hypoglycemia. And we also asked some people who live with type 1 diabetes about the use of technologies, and we found that the people who were not using technologies were reporting that they were restricting their social activities, they were not traveling, they were not hanging out with friends, they were staying at home much more than they liked because they were afraid of having hypoglycemia. While people who had the technology, they had much fewer restrictions on their social lives. So we can see that these technologies do bring an additional help to people who live with diabetes. They are quite useful in predicting when someone might have a hypo or a low blood sugar. They're also quite flexible, so the person can have more control over what they're doing. However, they're unfortunately not available to everybody who needs them. These technologies are very expensive. They're in the thousands of dollars, and you need them, again, something that you need to keep changing, something that you need for the rest of your life, and most of them are not currently covered by insurance. So this is an example of where research meets advocacy. So what I want us to leave here with today is to keep in mind that these chronic conditions do add an additional burden, and we do have the tools to help, but they're not accessible. So we should all support access for all, universal access for all, so that everyone who needs these technologies can have access to them. And in the meantime, we need to start by better understanding what diabetes is, and we're all doing that today if you're here. And also trying to avoid unsolicited advice. I know it comes from a great place, but sometimes the burden of the disease is just too great. The person does not want to hear more of it. So just practicing kindness and being kind to the people around us as a start. And this work would not have been possible without the Better Registry and the amazing team that we have behind it. And if you're curious and you want to learn more, you can go on our website, type 1 Better, or also there's the JDRF that has a lot of information about advocacy. Or you can reach out to me, and I'll be happy